Hey guys, welcome to the channel if you're new. Welcome back if you're a subscriber. My name's Neil, and it's time for a new show. Let's check out QI. I've seen a bunch of QI that I haven't reacted to, mostly because I got into it for two reasons. First of all, once I started reacting to Taskmaster and Would I Lie to You on my channel, a ton of people said you should check out QI as well, and once I found out Alan Davies was going to be one of the contestants on Series 12 of Taskmaster, that gave me another reason. I'm familiar with Stephen Fry all the way back from when I watched Blackadder way back in the day. And obviously I've seen him in a handful of other things as well over the years. So I've checked it out. When I first watched it, I really wasn't sure whether the format would work at all for a reaction video, and I'm still not sure that it will, because there's a few reasons. It's not a traditional quiz and where the answers are obviously right or obviously wrong. Obviously there's the klaxon, which makes you not offer up guesses as easily as you might otherwise. I hate getting stuff wrong, so I'd really want to be avoiding the klaxon. But that being said, I will try to react to an episode or two. I do find it incredibly intelligent and thought-provoking. I love learning new stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to react to an episode or two from a random series with Stephen Fry. I've picked H just because. And once I've done that, I'm also probably going to react to an episode or two of the newer version with Sandy Toksvig. I have watched series of both hosts. I like them both. Obviously, the tone of the show changes a little bit with a new host. There was perhaps a little bit more innuendo back in the Fry days. But I think Sandy's doing a really cool job, and I like the new episodes just as much as the old. One of the things I do find interesting about watching some of the older series is stuff that perhaps was very new information that maybe hadn't quite reached the public consciousness at the time of filming has sort of become common knowledge now, but also things change. So information that was true at the time may have been corrected since then. I've watched enough of the show to know that, I know the blue whale jokes. I know that it seems like every series they ask how many moons does the Earth have, and the answer is different every time. I'm beginning to get some of the inside jokes. So let's just jump into it. This is episode 1 of Series H. I'm going to watch the XL versions just because why not have more material to react to? You get more of the banter, more of the fun. Yeah, let's do it. This is episode 1 of Series H of QI. Man, the hair looks bad or different. I'm familiar with these guys. Things I've noticed about QI is it's got a small stable that they draw on. There's very much regulars that appear multiple times in a series. And I think Alan Davies is secretly quite brilliant, even though he sort of plays to be the dumb guy. I also love that the set hasn't changed in 18 seasons. You know what? I've seen this one. I've seen that episode from Series H. In fact, I think I might have seen that entire series. So let's try a new random episode. Let's try episode 1 from the previous series, Series G. Here we go. Again, this is the XL version. There we go, we get the full intro this time too, which is nice. But definitely not the HD recording.
Good evening, and welcome to QI for a show that tonight is all about gardening and groceries. Cutting the mustard, it's Rob Brydon.
We know Rob well. Maybe undo another button there, Rob.
It's Dara Briain.
Dara. I always want to say O'Brien, but I know it's O'Brien now.
Up is David Mitchell.
Oh, nice. We got a good roster here today. He's so young looking
Playing
without
catch-up,
the beard.
it's Alan Davies. Let's get off to an easy start. What tools do you need for do-nothing gardening?
Do nothing gardening?
No tools. You sort of have to dig with your hands or persuade other animals to do the gardening for you.
Yes,
Get some fish in and they desperately try and dig a pond before they die.
Well, in paddy fields...
They do put fish into rice paddies, don't they?
Well, this is like having a goat, isn't it? But now the goat has been usurped because the wallaby is being introduced in larger numbers now in Britain because it makes a good family pet and it eats the grass.
Better family pet than that traditional family pet, the
goat.
Christmas mornings where children go, it's a goat!
You wonderful. Do have to have a very high fence.
You could electrify the top of the fence. Because they are just gripping animals, aren't they? Wallabies?
That's a koala, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah.
Famously, they're not big clients.
They're mini kangaroos.
Of the bouncing animals.
Yes.
As opposed to of the gripping onto animals.
Oh, yes. You blinded me with your biology talk.
Sorry.
You make a little ball out of clay, mud, and various nutrients, and you just chuck it around, and it seeds.
And that's preferable to just putting some seeds wherever
yes.
it will.
Is it like for planting things that were difficult otherwise to reach, stuff on the other side of like lava? Yes, something like that.
There on the left is a seed gun.
Why would you do that?
Well, imagine that you are citizens of Richmond, Virginia. You're casting about for peaceful uses of guns.
They really do like making fun of America on this show, and in the UK in general, but
guerrilla gardening is a similar thing. Do you know about guerrilla gardening?
Guerrilla gardening is that where people take random patches of land which they don't own and garden on them.
Vancouver is one of the places where it's really taken off because a load of compost was dumped in the street by construction workers and a local inadvertently emptied all his birdseed onto it, and it flowered so extraordinarily that now almost any spare piece of land is used as a garden.
Yeah, like in Vancouver, like there's a lot of like decommissioned gas stations and stuff that have been turned into community gardens, and a lot of the guerrilla gardens have sort of been accepted by the city, and now they're managed and controlled and stuff.
I've been given a bottle with the top cut off.
That was designed by George Stephenson of the rocket fame. Was it? The first locomotive.
Oh, it's a self-watering bottle? Like it
is to do with the garden. He was a very keen gardener.
You fill it with water, you put it into the dirt, nozzle down, and it'll only slowly drop the water.
Whatever.
It's a cane saw?
It's a saw.
It is.
It's got a concealed serrated blade. You won't get this through customs. We won't go back again.
Have you ever used a saw?
I don't think it's designed for exercise books.
No.
That probably belongs to a museum.
I saw something there.
These belong. These have been lent to us by the Garden Museum.
It works.
There's a production manager right now just pissed off.
I really wish they hadn't made this set out of asbestos.
I'd just, oh no! What have I done?
Never give Alan a weapon.
Hold it as a walking stick, and then when you see some obtrusive weeds, you turn it around, and almost like a golf club, you...
Oh, it's just a thwacker.
Yeah, you just hoe.
I've absolutely no idea, other than I think it's something to do with light.
No, I think it's a self-watering bottle.
It actually forces a shape.
So it's for cucumbers.
For cucumbers, for growing straight cucumbers.
Points
really?
And of mendable walking stick.
Yes!
Why does it matter that your cucumber is perfectly straight? And how do you get the cucumber out of the bottle?
Guerrilla gardening is prettying up
Don't
the
call
hood.
it guerrilla. It's a guerrilla gardening.
We'd like you to draw the world's first novelty teapot.
Novelty teapot? Okay, I'm going to say it's old Chinese or something. Does it have like something in the bottom that gets revealed as you pour out? Does it have a cock and balls in the bottom of the pot that slowly gets revealed as you empty?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here's my handle. Oh, bugger, I'm a sugar bowl.
Alan will show something with cock and balls.
I'm very pleased with it.
Is it an Indian goddess or a crab?
The sort of business end of a teapot is the spout, so someone might have invented one with lots of spouts.
Actually, all jokes aside, this could be a goer. This... and the finger is cocking a snook to authority, so that'll appeal to the youngsters.
Which finger exactly?
That's the thumb.
It's a weird...
Unless it's the left hand...
Which has got 5 fingers.
It's not anatomically correct.
No, that's
It's supposed to be an Egyptian character, but that it pours out of his arm.
That's very clever.
Now, fortunately, I don't know. I can't draw Egyptian clothes, so I've made him wear a small tuxedo.
So you've not only signed it, you've actually put a copyright
I've put a
notice
copy,
on
just
it
in case.
You have to put the date if you copyright something. So, yeah.
I've done a bloke with a beak, and he's... The only drawback here is he will need long, thin tea bags.
I think that's going to be a hell of a difficult thing to clean.
But you shouldn't clean a teapot.
Don't clean a teapot.
You don't clean a
You
teapot,
should never
David.
clean a teapot.
No. What?
Under
Never?
no circumstance.
But I sense a hypothetical situation.
Occasionally, if you make sort of tea in a teapot once in a blue moon when you can be bothered in a vague attempt to seem more civilised than you actually are.
Oh, yeah, you rinse it
leave
out.
No, you don't rinse it out
it
because you
stains.
forget, because immediately you're tired of being civilised and you want to go to the pub. And then when you have a look in it, it's gone disgustingly mouldy. At that point, the flavour that you would get if you didn't wash it from your next cup of tea is, if anything, too characterful.
Where's the best place in the world to discover an entirely new species?
The Amazon?
What about the Amazon rainforest, where they're discovering new things all the time?
Yeah, klaxon.
Kent.
That would do.
Kent?
Kent would do. Basically, your own garden. You would be amazed. In 1971, Jennifer Owen, a biologist, did a very long-term study of her ordinary garden. She discovered 533 species of ichneumon wasp. 15 of these had never been recorded in Britain. 4 of them were completely new to science. It almost doesn't matter. Just take a piece of land.
Interesting.
And
That's
look at
very
it hard
cool.
enough. You will
That's
see
quite
things.
interesting.
You know when you find a bee and it's crawling on its last legs,
I always rescue them.
you give it honey. It's the only thing they eat. Makes sense when you think about it.
I'm intrigued because I generally give it the sole of my shoe, but
Not bees.
what? As opposed to rehabilitate it?
You murderer. Leave it with the honey. Don't tread on it. It should be criminal
but-
offence.
but-
You should be arrested. You should be locked up. You know where? In a hive.
But isn't it true, though, that a bee in his entire lifetime makes an absolutely tiny amount of honey?
Yeah, bees aren't important because of honey, guys. They're important because they're pollinators.
And every time we have to get it back on its feet, it takes a teaspoon and a half. Suddenly there's no honey at all. You're insulting it, apart from anything else. It's like showing a very tired mason a whole cathedral.
Oh, David Mitchell, you ranting maniac.
What you can do is you get what I would term too much honey, and you pour molten. You watch him die a slow as he.
That's worse. Much worse
That's
than what
torture.
I did.
So you're being humane, are you?
Yeah, I am being
You're not. You're getting a kick out of it.
Not everything ages well on this show.
My
He's a
scenario.
bee drowner.
He wanted to smash it with his
If there's a bee that looks as if it's on its way out, and then I do turn to people and go, "It's what the bee would have wanted."
Thank you for that interesting, fierce, and I think productive debate. Who finds garden gnomes attractive?
I do. Oh, look at that.
We knew you too well, Rob.
That was for Rob.
Her bikini is a little bit too small for her.
But she's had a Brazilian, which is thoughtful.
Oh, I hate when the gnomes when it like, goes out.
Yeah, no, you don't.
That would make for an interesting chia pet.
There was a strange man called Charles Isham who believed that putting ornamental garden gnomes into a garden would attract real gnomes.
Was this back when they actually believed in garden fairies and stuff?
It's a nice try, isn't it? It's lovely being clever when you're mental.
In the Lake District, there were, at 48 metres, there were a whole load of gnomes set for divers to look at. 3 people drowned, and the gnome garden was put back at 50 metres. The police, divers, health and safety people won't let the police dive that low, so the police couldn't recover them from that depth.
Oh, it's hilarious. So you can only go 160 feet deep.
Of course, in Scapa Flow, there's a scuttled German fleet for you to go and investigate.
The Allies are all arguing about who are to get this fleet.
And Mummy said, if you're going to argue about it, then no one will get the fleet.
I didn't know that we sunk the French fleet.
We did, yes. But otherwise, the Germans would have got hold of it.
Also, you don't get many opportunities to sink the French fleet. We never mind that we're at war with Germany, but still, it's a French fleet. We will kick ourselves.
Why didn't you just sail it to England?
We said sail it to England. It was full of French sailors who refused to sail it to England, as they always will.
And option B was, well, let's just sink the boat.
Yeah.
The third option was to drown them in honey, but we couldn't.
Why do American farmers, gentlemen, hate Shakespeare? It's not Shakespeare's fault at all. It was an eccentric drug manufacturer called Eugene Schieffelin.
I certainly don't know.
And he decided that America should contain every bird species named in the works of Shakespeare.
Oh, so what did they introduce?
He introduced 100 to Central Park, and there are now
Pigeons?
estimated something
Starlings?
like 200 million of them.
Ducks.
Starlings is the right
Starlings,
answer.
I was on Brighton Pier one time, and there were lots of starlings there, and at dusk they do that.
They're beautiful.
And it's really amazing to watch.
Yes.
And someone said that starlings, and they come from as far away as Germany and Poland.
A lot of the Polish ones are coming over here now and taking away a lot of the... a lot of the British starlings' jobs.
Yeah, but they're the lazy British starlings who don't want to work.
Why don't they just get up and join in?
Which is correct of these grocers, or grocers. They put them in where they shouldn't be, supposedly. They put, like, potatoes and put an apostrophe there. It doesn't bother me.
It bothers
It
me.
It bothers some people,
It certainly doesn't belong in potatoes.
There's one actually in Dublin, I don't know if it's a grocer, but something like that, and it's G-R-O-C-E-R, and then there's a comma, and then the S. It looks like a dead apostrophe. It looks like he'd obviously written out the sign, and then gone to a sign printing company who went,
You'd think one of the requirements of being a sign printing company is having a basic...
No, this is the problem with the customer is always
They
right.
know. All sign writing companies know, for example, how to spell accommodation. Would you like our normal service, or would you like our deluxe service? Well, we'll check your spelling for you. And everyone goes, no, it's all right, I'm not going to pay 5 times as much for you to check the spelling. They go, OK.
There are very few times that you will run in and go, where are the grocers? And they go, well, there's only me. But your sign implied.
5 places in the whole United States have an apostrophe.
Martha's Vineyard.
And there are 4 others.
Dave's Vineyard.
Carlos Elmer's Joshua View, Arizona, Clark's Mountain, Oregon. And those are the only ones.
Joshua View works fine, doesn't it? Why the hell do you need to have Carlos Elmer's specific view of Joshua?
How can you be sure that an apple isn't actually a pear without tasting it or opening it up?
Is it that you can't do that twisting thing?
Yeah, the stem can't twist
I
out.
think pear stems do tend to come off more quickly, don't they? But there's a really interesting way, and that is...
One floats, one sinks.
One floats and one doesn't
Which
float.
one floats?
Apples float, because you can bob for them.
Float, is it?
Dunk apples.
Bobbing for apples, exactly. Whoa! Float!
Wow, it's gone really big.
Floats.
Wow, why is that?
Because there's air in the seed chambers.
It's a weird-looking pear.
It's a bosque.
Let's dare you.
You may try this at home and get a floating pear, or please don't write in. Write to the British Apostrophe Society. I went to the supermarket, and all I wanted was a loaf of bread and some milk, and I came back with a small jar of truffle oil, a pot of organic anchovy.
I remember that day, that was
brilliant. What was going on?
Early onset dementia, Stephen, which...
It sounds like a trip to Costco.
Very clever with the way they put things in the aisles and they catch you out. You end up with a Swiss roll you had no intention of buying.
Precisely. There is a huge science to the placing of products.
End caps.
Apparently men buy things from higher up. They're also more likely to pay more.
I used to work at Costco, and we would actually rent out the space at the end of the aisle. It's called the end cap, because and vendors would pay for that opportunity just because sales would inevitably spike if you put stuff on the end of the
They play
aisle.
different music during it because you're more or less price sensitive at different times of the day. By half an hour before the supermarket closed, they speed up the music in order to make you shop faster. And also the people go bip, bip, bip quicker because the music develops a beat. Then you go home and enjoy them.
Oh, that's true.
You go home and go, this is just tar. We give them as if they're being foisted upon us, like, and the guy in the music, they have bought our tar biscuits again.
And now it's time for 5 items or fewer of general ignorance. What are trees made of?
Wood!
Cellulose.
Is the right answer. Yes.
Okay. I figured that was an obvious klaxon.
What is wood made of?
Cellulose.
Carbon?
And where does the carbon come from?
The earth.
actually...
It's air, is it?
It's actually...
Sunlight.
Vast majority of everything that makes a tree comes from the air, yeah. Photosynthesis leaves the carbon, and that's the carbon that makes a tree, so it is made of carbon. It's quite surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my good night. It's a tie for first place, ladies and gentlemen. It hasn't happened for a very long time.
Not a lot of klaxons this time.
Place. It's the two Ds with 3 points each, Dara and David! Congratulations.
I know it doesn't matter at all, but I do love the scoring system on QI, where anything even close to positive
-6 is Rob Brydon.
is a really good game.
With -8 is Alan Davies. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed about QI is they tend to draw on a very small group of panelists. And it's not a show for everyone, because you do have to be smart and you do have to be able to offer up to the conversation and offer some quite interesting stuff. And especially in the early seasons, it does feel like a bit of a boys' club. So one of the things that I do appreciate in the later series, especially since Sandy took over, is there's a broader group of people joining, and definitely more women panelists on the show as well. That being said, I mean, this is a pretty A-list panel, it feels like. You know, David Mitchell and Rob Brydon from Would I Lie to You, and Dara seems to be a regular on a lot of these types of shows. I actually have a ton of respect for Alan, because he's put in a really difficult position, and it didn't show up so much on this episode, but a lot of the time, you know, the times when he racks up like that -40, -50, -60 score, it's not because he's necessarily, he's sort of framed as the foolish dumb guy, but secretly one of his jobs on the show was to keep things moving. So sometimes the way to do that, like when no one else wants to ring in because they don't want to get the klaxon, it's his job to ring in and say the answer that everyone's thinking of, just to keep the show moving. And you see him sometimes do that, where there's a bunch of obvious answers that earn the klaxon, and he just like rattles them off, three or four of them, and eats 30 or 40 points. Obviously, he doesn't care about his score. His job is more about keeping things entertaining. But I think he's secretly quite an intelligent guy, and I think he might be my horse in Series 12 of Taskmaster. I could see him doing really well. I think he's clever. I think he's used to being the butt of a joke, so I don't think embarrassment or shame is going to be an issue, and I think he's secretly quite clever. I think he might be a really solid contestant on Taskmaster. Anyway, I like QI, I really do. It's a lot of fun, but I do find that a lot of the time, because you're not necessarily searching, it's not a show about finding the right answer. It's easy to react to Would I Lie to You? Is this true or is this false? It's easy to answer to only connect. What's the answer? On QI, the answer isn't as interesting as the discussion about it. So I find myself a lot of the time just sort of sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying the banter and the comedy of it all. Anyway, this was a lot of fun. If this does really well on the channel, I might turn this into a semi-regular feature. I will do another episode, at least a Sandy Talks Vig episode, just for the variety of it all. I'd love to hear which version you guys like more, and if there's any particular episodes that are your favorites. Until next time, take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.